A little while ago, Steve Entman, Quentin Coriat, just about done deals. Anything new out of Colts headquarters?
Well, Chris, Quentin Coriat just walked into the Colts headquarters with his agent, Steve Zucker, so they're getting ready to sign their contract as the #2 pick of the Colts. The #1 pick, Steve Entman, his agent is here, Marvin Demoff. Entman has agreed to a deal. We hear about 4 years, $9 million, a $4 million signing bonus, which I think the happiest guy out of this whole thing might be Reggie White of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a free agent after this year, Chris.
Well, Steve Entman is probably pretty happy as well, and we know the Colts are very, very happy because all of a sudden they have a chance to improve their defense in a hurry with these two guys. The Washington Redskins, I mean, do they really need to improve themselves? All they did was roll in the Super Bowl and beat everybody else. They were the best team in football last year, but they have 2 first-round picks, and Mort, they want to move up even higher than the 6th overall selection. What's brewing with the Skins?
They would love to move up to that #4 spot, the Redskins would, to take Desmond Howard, because they know Green Bay has their sights on Howard. That's not a done deal. There's going to be a lot of jockeying around because Sean Gilbert is kind of a wild card here. He falls to the Rams, but who knows? Maybe he slips more.
All right, Mort, we'll check in with you and see what happens, as we know that Indianapolis is a buzzing place right now, that's for sure. All right, let's welcome some of our cast of characters. I think you know these faces, you know these voices, and if you don't, in the next 5.5 hours, they become members of your family. Joe Theismann, Tom Jackson, Mel Kiper, as we sit and analyze what the Indianapolis Colts are about to do, and that is to take a 1-15 ball club, despite the fact that they have a new head coach who's an offensive guru in Teddy Marchibroda. Yet he's going defense, defense, defense. Tommy applauds it. Do you, Joe?
Absolutely, Chris. You know, as a quarterback, you have to have people to stop the other team from scoring. So obviously, if you get defensive players, it makes your job a whole lot easier on the other side of the ball. Last year, or 2 years ago, they made the commitment. They got George. They got the quarterback they were looking for. He's the guy that's going to handle the offensive side of the ball. I talked to Ted Marchibroda this week. He's very pleased with the progress Jeff George is making in that system offensively. But defensively has got to be the way that Teddy's going to go. This draft and Ted Marchibroda's reign as coach of the Colts will be looked upon very, very critically, because this is the first decision that he gets to take part in, and it's very important that he makes the right choices, and for him, the right choices are definitely defensive players.
I'll tell you what, it's unusual that a team has the first 2 picks of the draft. This is only the 2nd time it's ever happened, the Colts having it this year. The old Chicago Cardinals drafted quarterback King Hill and running back John David Crow, 1-2, back in 1958. Entman and Coriat is the only other time that will happen. Of course, the man presiding over the proceedings here in New York, the commissioner of the NFL, Paul Tagliabue, and he has the cards from the Colts to make it official. The walk up to the podium, here he is.
Good morning. Welcome to the National Football League's 57th annual selection meeting. The selection meeting is now underway. The Indianapolis Colts have the first 2 choices, and so they will have 30 minutes on the board to make those choices.
Well, I'll tell you what, the cards are coming up, but if you're the Colts and you're paying millions and millions and millions of dollars to these 2 guys, I take my 30 minutes. You burn your 30 minutes, but they won't take that long.
They burned 30 minutes. They burned 30 million is what they did.
Well, how will they pay for that phone call now after paying these 2 contracts?
Collect.
You love these guys, Tommy, Entman and Coriat.
Yeah, I think the key to the game, you look at the Indianapolis Colts last year, a lot of problems offensively because of injury, but this is a team that had 29 sacks on the year. What you get from these 2 players, and I don't think they could have missed even if they had chosen Sean Gilbert, you get very aggressive guys, great attitudes, and Quentin Coriat is not only this great hitter, he's also a great rusher.
He can play inside or outside, and so can this man, Paul Tagliabue. Now, maybe they're going over Quentin Coriat, the pronunciation. Steve Entman, see, that's Val Pinchback on the left, Greg Mello Aiello on the right, and Entman, E-M-T-M-A-N. They have 2 picks, and I tell you what, there's some excitement brewing in Indy.
The Indianapolis Colts' first choice is Steve Entman, defensive end, University of Washington. The Indianapolis Colts' second choice, obtained from Tampa Bay, is Quentin Coriat, linebacker, Texas A&M.
Entman and Coriat. Defensive tackle extraordinaire, linebacker extraordinaire, now drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. You saw Steve Entman with his family and friends, the Lombardi and Outland Trophy winner, and every play, Mel, he's a monster.
Probably the most productive player in the draft overall, Chris. Clear-cut #1 guy. You see him here stuffing the run, collapsing the pocket, getting after the quarterback. I remember talking to Buddy Ryan, former Eagle coach, early in the year. Buddy said this was the best player in the country, the guy that really excited him as far as future pro potential. Excitable individual, comes to play, hardest worker on the football team in practice. And when you're investing all this money, you want a guy who's a hard worker, very disciplined, and Steve Entman brings not only production to the table, but that great attitude which could carry over for the rest of his teammates at Indianapolis, a team that needs an infusion of winning attitude considering they're coming off that 1-15 year.
And you take a look at Steve live right now. We're going to be talking to Steve in a moment because, I mean, what did you work to this moment being the first overall pick in the draft? Tell you what, it's not bad being #2 either, and he may try harder. Quentin Coriat, linebacker, Texas A&M, inside linebacker, but Cornelius Bennett went inside this year with the Buffalo Bills, so he's got outside skills as well, Mel.
Brings that versatility and very, comparable to Bennett. That's why Marcia Broda, I think, wanted these two guys. You see Coriat here, a guy who can move around, get after the quarterback in pursuit, tremendously physical player, and a guy that's certainly going to very much upgrade a porous Colt defense. So these two picks, you saw this game Thursday night on ESPN when he just destroyed the wide receiver here, one-on-one hit. This guy, another guy, comes to play and enforcer, which changes the whole chemistry of your defense when you bring in a guy like Entman and a guy like Coriat to team with a John Hand, a Dwayne Bickett, a Jeff Harrod. Now all of a sudden your front seven on the Indianapolis Colts football team is pretty good and gives them a chance to build on that throughout the rest of this great draft.
You know, it's not often the teams in the AFC East are starting to worry about the Colts, but I talked to a couple of teams this weekend in the division, and no matter how it shook down, Entman and Coriat, Entman and Gilbert, they're definitely doing the right thing. I wish they didn't do the right thing. Why couldn't they trade these picks? Tommy, you know a little bit about linebacking. Coriat, they can really move him around. He can create havoc, can't he, with opposing offense?
Yeah, Chris, he is not strictly an inside linebacker. Quentin Coriat can do a lot of things for you. He's a great run stopper, gets back in the zones. You saw his hitting ability there on the tape. The other thing is Quentin Coriat has the knack of getting to the passer. I think that was a great thing I saw when I watched him on film. And the other thing that impressed me was his closing speed when he's going after the football. He has great closing speed.
So all of a sudden, the Indianapolis Colts
have a front seven.
Starting to build. That's right. They will be no pushover, at least defensively. The Rams, who need big-time defensive help as well, they're on the clock. We think it's Sean Gilbert. We'll be back to tell you who in a moment.
ESPN NFL Special, the 1992 Draft, is brought to you by Acura Automobiles. Experience precision-crafted performance. And by Delta Airlines. We love to fly. It shows.
Maybe a gray day in Manhattan, but it's not a gray day for Steve Entman, the first selection in the 1992 draft. For the second straight year, a defensive lineman has been the first overall pick and the 9th time overall since the merger of the AFL. If you're wondering and keeping score at home, Bubba Smith by the Colts in '67. Walt Patulski never made it really with the Bills. The twos with the Oilers, Utah and Leroy Selman. Need we say more about the ability of those two gentlemen? Other first-round picks that were defensive linemen. Kenneth Sims never really panned with the Pats. I'd say Bruce Smith has with the Bills. Russell Maryland came on strong late last year with the Cowboys. And now Steve Entman with the Colts. The Rams selection is up. They've got about 9 minutes to go. But that's not just any phone. That's the Rams phone. So you can be sure that he's talking to perhaps Chuck Knox, who certainly knows that he needs some defensive help. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But with Sean Gilbert on the phone, this is the, it's not exactly going out on a limb to say that Gilbert will be the 3rd overall selection, and he'll be paying a great pick by the Los Angeles Rams. So let's go back to Seattle, Washington, where Steve Entman got some very good news earlier this morning. You remember the Indianapolis Colts. Congratulations. I know, Steve, for a while you were sending out signals that you weren't interested